So where have all the homeless of Orange County gone this time? Well, we know some of them have gone to shelters, but how can a hastily assembled collection of mass emergency shelters adequately contain or humanely support a divergent body of homeless, a growing body of homeless in Orange County? Many of those who have been through the shelter system are now back out on the streets and seeking their refuge, often in the darker corners of the county.
Lonely tree on a windswept plain, rocks smooth by the driving rain. You stand alone in the middle of a raging storm. Branches torn from your side, lightning burns you through the night. While you stand alone through the raging storm. Everything is blown away, nothing left but this hard pan clay that comforts you. Oh, you stand alone, you stand alone. Oh, you stand alone, you stand alone. Everything is blown away, nothing left but this hard pan clay to comfort you.
These homeless are referred to as the service resistant, the ones who prefer the uninhabited corners of the county to a shelter cot in 3 squares. The convenient notion is that they are mostly souls lost to their addictions, mental illness, or criminality, but in fact, a growing number of them have been through one or more of the mass shelters operating now in OC, and instead of being supported by them, have too often been traumatized by the experience.
How you doing? Hey, my name's Johnny, and I found a little hideaway spot where I can get away. Come on in and look at it.
To such an extent that they prefer the hardships of the street to the humiliations and the confinement of the shelters.
Now watch your head. It's about the only place where I can escape.
Johnny has had his brushes with the law and the big shelters of Orange County.
Okay, come on in.
He's just happy now, he says, to find a piece of ground, such as it is, to call his own, and he says he's not alone. You got a lot of room under here.
A bunch. It's a bunch, yeah.
You think there's a lot of folks living under freeways like this, all down the freeway system
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
in Orange County?
They're all I could take you to 30 more camps just down the street around any freeways and passes like this. Now there's a lot of homeless people.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're telling I don't know what they're telling everybody, but there's a lot more homeless people than what they know.
Well, that's a good point. They're saying about 5,000 out here.
I'd
in Orange
say
County,
more than
anyway.
that. Yeah.
How much of an undercount do you think that is?
That's way under.
Like
I'd say close to 12, 13.
1,000.
Yeah, at least.
You know,
and every day there's someone, I mean, there's someone new who's going on the street. I mean, it's just crazy.
In January 2019, county contracted census workers fanned out across the OC as part of a nationwide tally of the homeless among us. They will ultimately fail to count many of these homeless who have fallen off the grid, driven recently from the public parklands and visible streets at the threat of arrest, turned away or exiled out of the overburdened shelters. The point-in-time count of 2019 revealed what those on the street already knew, that the hastily assembled and poorly managed mass shelters of Orange County cannot contain or appropriately address the real needs of the homeless, and perhaps even more devastating to the homeless themselves, that the housing they were promised on the other side of the shelter process just wasn't there. Little wonder so many of the homeless are choosing to go their own way and not waiting for another promise that may never come. James and Margot are a long-standing homeless couple who until recently were sheltered at one of the new mass facilities, Bridges at Kramer Place. For them, it was anything but the safe, warm, and supportive environment the outreach workers had promised them. After 3 months at Kramer, they began to weigh the promised virtues of the shelter against the known vices of the street. They chose to return to the streets.
So we left there and we lost all our belongings. They lost all our belongings that we had, property there at the Bridges shelter.
At Bridges at Kramer?
Yes.
It was lost, you say?
Yeah, they told us it was lost. We were within the 2 weeks minimum. We went to get our stuff and they just said we can't find it, come back in 2 days. We went back in 2 days and they said we can't find anything.
How does it get how does it get lost, James? It's that they have a lockup, containers for you there, don't they?
I have no idea. I had a locker with a very expensive suit someone donated to me, and
$200 shoes.
And that was in a locker with my lock on it, and they took that. They said they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah. It had been about 11 or 12 days.
We lost all our clothing, all our cosmetics, everything we had.
We just done laundry, lost everything.
So you just did they exit you out of there, or did you go out on your own?
We exited ourselves, but we couldn't get back in to get our things, our property. And
we were told if we went back in, we couldn't get back out.
We would call them, and they wouldn't even want to talk to us. So there was nothing we could really do. We had to just go forcibly to the gate and tell them, hey, we want our stuff. It still didn't work out.
By the way, they don't tell you that in the first place. If you do end up leaving, you'll have 2 weeks to get your stuff. Nobody says anything like that. No rule book.
They're not drug addicts. They're not criminals. They're just a couple trying to get by. Some homeless, like James and Margot, are finding a bit of ground to call their own on this unlikely stretch of noisy underpass in Placentia. And on their own terms, they've made a kind of home of it out of cardboard and plywood. It even has a little kitchenette.
Are you a little homemaker?
Oh, hello there. How are you? How are you out there in TV land? Oh, yes, homemaker Margot.
They say they might even manage to improve their lot soon, get themselves off the streets, maybe even in an apartment, if they could just be left alone. But there's some transitional centers that have opened up in Anaheim and Santa Ana. What would it take for you guys to pack it in and and take up residence there for a little while?
I don't know if this is directly answering your question, but we'd like to do it on our own. If it weren't for them coming today, police and Caltrans, I was on my way to go get my ID. Finally, I had the piece of mail, everything I needed to prove, and what's it called, voucher, everything. And I was gonna go get my ID, and then we start going to work. Start getting rid of some stuff. Yep,
So your preference,
storage.
Margot, would be to remain on your own out here, struggling with the weather and all the contingencies of
It's not so
no
bad when you have the love
electricity
of your
and-
life. It really isn't. But really, we want to do it on our own. Yeah.
You want to do it on your own?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck to you both.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. You have a good day.
For Margot and James, living under this bridge was preferable to remaining in bridges at Kramer. For them, the county's model mass shelter experiment was a bridge to nowhere. For now, this curbside address is home enough. But for how long, though, is anybody's guess. With city parks now under siege by local PD and their anti-camping ordinances aggressively enforced in Anaheim and other big cities,
Probably.
like Fullerton, which until recently had allowed homeless to set up impromptu encampments along such streets as Gilbert, just outside of the St. Benizzi's Catholic Parish. That all came to a cold and soggy end recently in the morning rain for these homeless who thought they had finally found a safe and public place to lay their heads. Like others who landed on Gilbert Street after losing a job, Andy is trying to get back on his feet and back to work. Outreach services and local PD, he says, have only hindered his efforts. And have they kept you up to date on that at all?
No, they were supposed to come out last week. They were supposed to come out the week before, and they haven't. And they keep asking us if we signed up for services. Oh yeah, we did, but do they come and back check or, anything like that? No, because honestly, they don't want to help us out. They'd rather just keep all the money themselves. They don't really want to help us out. They got tons of money right now for the homeless. We ain't gonna get it. We won't. They're building a home in Buena Park. Placentia, all those residents get first pick.
Yeah.
We were perfectly happy in a parking lot where the policemen didn't bother us and steal our stuff. We don't need $1 million mansion for a shelter. Leave us alone so we can be comfortable and at least try to get something started. As of right now, we're at a point to where we don't know where we're gonna go from day to day. How are we gonna start a job if I don't know that I got a place to go home and sleep tonight?
Yeah. Or an address to call home.
An address to call home, sir.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know what you would call it, but we are humans. We're humans, just like everybody else. And them, and they sit behind their badges and they laugh at us. They think it's a joke,
Yeah.
And they're sitting here collecting all the money for the homeless stuff, but yet you see what they're doing to us? They're throwing our stuff away.
Yeah.
The rest of this stuff is trash.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Andy and about a dozen other homeless encamped on Gilbert Street in Fullerton were recently swept off the streets in the early morning rain by PD and forcibly placed temporarily in motels 10 miles away in another city. Judging from past motel placements, their outcomes are still far from secure. Many others have it even worse. Even the railroad easements that traverse the county have recently been swept of the homeless. Many now are seeking refuge and relief from the relentless criminalization of homeless on the streets by retreating into ever darker corners of the county, Some have seen the shelters and want nothing more to do with them. Dean has been off the grid and encamped here in this undisclosed location for over a year and a half now. He knows the county shelters, enough to know he's not going back there.
Can I just get your first name?
Dean. My name's Hank.
Well, at this point in time, if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, Dean, how about one of those shelters?" Would you go in right now?
I couldn't say yes, no. I couldn't.
And why would you defer?
Because I don't think there's any future in big numbers of people packed together. It's warehousing people is only going to make it worse, I think. We know a whole lot of this warehousing thing has got to be money in somebody's pocket. And it's not going to be yours and mine, probably. It's going to be the bureaucrats or the, people that we never even see.
Dean says he takes a certain pride in his camp as he walks and talks. Fairly organized by most homeless camp standards, despite the freeway noise and the dust, he seems to have made his peace with this patch of ground, prefers it to the turmoil and the harassment out in the parks and on the streets. But that could change too.
Has it gotten to the point, Dean, that you feel you need to be way back in here, tucked away, in order to survive?
Yes.
I mean, you've tried it on the street, and I presume it.
City ordinance don't allow me to camp on the streets. There's no camping in the city of Fullerton. I'm pretty sure it's Placentia, and I'm not sure about Brea, but I know you can't sleep in your car in most of those cities either. So basically, it's I'm doing what I did since I was a little kid, camping out in the fields.
But has it gotten tougher in the last year or two?
Yeah.
The pressure's on, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the reasons of other people migrating up this way from probably the riverbed to start with.
Would you say the numbers have gotten larger in the last year, or even since the riverbed roll-ups?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Is time running out for the Deans out there too, lying low and off the grid, as a growing number of homeless are turning their backs on the county's carrot and stick offer of shelter or jail? Campsites like Dean's draw more and more homeless, and eventually the attention of law enforcement, who will seek out and take even these hidden camps down. This is what happened to the homeless campsite at Santiago Creek that runs directly under Main Street in Santa Ana. The sparsely occupied riverbed has always sheltered some homeless, and despite the traffic noise above and the dust of the riverbed below their feet, it remained relatively safe to inhabit. But as relentless police sweeps accelerated on the streets above, more and more homeless sought refuge among the rock piles and the riverbanks. Finally, Santa Ana PD rolled in, and with no questions asked, no comfort offered, began arresting new and old river dwellers alike, slashing tents and making arrests. According to this eyewitness, Patrick, who was swept up in the rain.
My name is Patrick Hogan. I was living down here for a while. On May 17th, 6 o'clock a.m., the Santa Ana police rolled up and they arrested every person that was down here. At that time, there were between 40 and 50 people is what I estimated. 37 people were arrested. After 12 hours, we were released. And since that time, well, let me tell you this. When you're arrested like that, you're not supposed to be, when you're accosted like that, you're not supposed to be arrested. They're supposed to offer you shelter. What the policeman said when he had us all sitting down was, how come you're all not in shelters? Someone yelled out, they're full, the shelters are full. That was the last we heard of an offer of shelters. I personally asked them 6 times about shelters and never got an answer after that. They also sat there, they had us all sit down and watch while they took a front end loader and they dumped them all in a dump truck and drove them away. Some people lost all their possessions that they had, some lost their identifications, their money, their medical records. The very thing that Judge Carter ruled on, saying that you cannot just throw people's possessions away. This is what Santa Ana police did. They had one woman here who was trying to get her purse out of her camp. The police told her to leave it there, that they would tag it, and then they threw it all away. So all her identification was lost, all her medical stuff was lost that was in her purse. Everything that was in her purse was lost. And they don't seem to care. There are now about 100 to 120 people living down here. And the scary part about it all is the police could come at any minute and raid it again. And just arrest everybody, throw all their stuff away, and people would start from square one again.
Let me go ahead and show you how many people are out here nowadays at Santiago Creek. 42 Sunday.
Michelle Lopez knows what it means to start all over again from square one. An outcast from the shelters, and a target for local PD who have tagged her a troublemaker for her advocacy on behalf of her fellow homeless who choose or are driven to live outside the county's system of shelters, often off the grid entirely. Still, wherever Michelle has gone, she has attempted to organize food distribution and homeless cleanup crews to improve the living conditions and the image of what she considers.
So Michelle, besides the
her
police
family.
that have been down here a few times, a raid and then a couple of one-offs, has anybody else been down here to look in on you as far as providing services of any kind?
No. I expected at least one or two visits, CityNet or Orange County Healthcare, heck, even MHA, which is down Main Street. Nobody, not one advocate. Nobody. I haven't heard from them since the parks over there, Schweitzer and Maxwell.
So to them, you're just sort of off the grid. Huh?
Off the grid, not making no noise. I must have been taken care of or got my voucher or something. You know, they don't care. They don't even have me down. Why? Because they never ever took the time to evaluate me or my husband. A whole group of us. We only got that 30 days, and they washed their hands of us. So down here, I expected the same thing as Anaheim, but I was wrong. I know there's services still being offered. I know that CityNet's still supposedly picking people up from different locations. I don't know where those locations are, but this is not one of them. And I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed in all entities involved, city, county, state, whoever dropped the ball. The ball's in our court now, and we need to do something about that. You know.
Between the several police sweeps of Santiago Creek recently that left garbage strewn all over the creekbed floor, Michelle has helped organize the homeless there, or the ones who are left, into trash collection teams, delivering hundreds of bags of garbage to a topside collection point for city public workers to pick up. Occasionally they do, but mostly they don't, says Michelle, and she's pretty sure she knows why.
After the last raid that law enforcement and the city did, this is a shithole that they left us to clean up after, just like 3 months ago. This is what we have to deal with, clean up. Definitely environmental. This is our other trash pile. This is where trash bins used to be for trail goers upon exiting the bike trail. They removed those quite some time back in order to keep the garbage from accumulating. Obviously didn't do much good. This is where we have to bring it. You see how far some of us have to carry that? Now, we do the best we can with the bags we have. We've talked to the company that is a subcontractor for the city of Santa Ana. They have agreed, even though they're being told not to pick this location up, they're being told to stop at the last location. But they have agreed to help us as long as it's bagged. But I don't know what happened this week, because yesterday was trash day and it's still here. So
What do you think the point is, Michelle?
they want us to look bad. They want us to look dirty. They want us to look like, look at those people and all their garbage. Do you see why we don't want them in our neighborhood? But every neighborhood around here has a trash pickup date. Why don't we?
Michelle and Patrick are refugees from a shelter system experience that reduced their lives and their freedoms to a 3x6 bunk in an overcrowded warehouse. Refusing to repeat that experience again, they and a growing number of homeless on the streets of Orange County have become known as the shelter resistant. Still, there is a heavy price to pay for the freedom of movement they seek off the grid. In Santiago Creek, it has become a constant battle of attrition, with law enforcement who strip the homeless of every possession they find with each police action they take. And lately, the action has been relentless.
Excuse me, how's it been going out here at Santiago Creek?
It's pretty rough. The other night, they came in like bandits in the night, took all of our stuff. I was in here, I was at the grocery store. I let my friend Robert borrow my motorbike, and he took it too, with all my clothes and everything. The only thing I have is what I have on me and his bike.
So that's all you have left?
Yes, all I have left.
Down here under the Main Street Bridge in Santa Ana, in Santiago Creek. Jody, it's been a little tough last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah,
With law enforcement roll-ups here down in the creek. A number of people have told us that they're pretty relentless right now, almost every day.
They are.
How tough is it down here for a woman?
It is tough because they're taking all of our blankets, our tents, and throwing everything away. The city is.
They're not allowing you to keep anything?
No, nothing, just a backpack.
Yeah.
So we don't have anywhere, it's freezing in us, like we don't have any blankets or tents or anything. We're taking everything.
Yeah. So they could roll through here today and take what you've got here?
Yeah.
And then what?
I don't have anything.
Have they offered you shelter at all down here?
No, not at all. No.
Okay, Wyatt
Yes, that's me.
and Tamara, a married couple. You guys have been down here for a little bit, and you have seen what's been going on down here in Santiago Creek. You're staying right across the riverbed there, up on the embankment in what looks like really a public thoroughfare. You're not down in the creek, is that right?
No, we're not. No.
And yet you're getting rolled up the last few weeks at an accelerated rate, I think we could say, it sounds like.
Yes,
So
we
what's
can.
been going on with you folks out here the last couple weeks?
Well, the last 10 days we've had our stuff taken, all of our stuff taken. Even the stuff we accumulate over a 24-hour period, they come right back the next day and take it again. We've lost 3 bikes, we've lost a trailer, we've lost all of our blankets, our cooking stuff, our personal effects, everything, backpacks, cell phones, money, everything's been taken from us. And we've lost it all. There used to be people who come down here to feed us. Now they don't want them down here feeding us. You go anywhere in this place, anywhere outside this place, and they don't want the homeless around whatsoever. Only one place I know of that doesn't really balk at us is because we're not giving them no trouble when we clean up our mess, and that's Starbucks. You know, they're good. I just feel like crying all the time, man.
Thank you both.
The current push to disrupt and disperse the homeless of Santiago Creek is just symptomatic of what is taking place all across the county. As quickly as the homeless are discovered and displaced, their possessions are being bulldozed and disposed of wherever law enforcement can find them, in most cases without regard to ownership or recovery rights.
Are you gonna waste my time or not? So I could call CityNet right now.
On the railroad tracks, in the parks, and on the streets, the war on homelessness has morphed into a vicious war on the homeless themselves, stripping them of what little protection they have against the elements or even the tools with which to survive, leaving them with few options and fewer places to go to seek shelter on their own.
Fingernails seem to gather dirt even if you don't dig in the dirt. I don't know why that is. It's because of the, exposure to the elements. So that's the reason you have a hard time getting a job when you're homeless. It's not just that easy to go get a job. I take back all the things I said to the homeless when I was younger. Just go get a job.
But the homeless, most of whom are local to their area, must go somewhere. And with the shelters now too full or too repulsive for many, somewhere out there could be anywhere they might lay their heads to rest, without fear of getting arrested for it. Sprawling and heavily wooded Central Park in Huntington Beach maintains a surprisingly large number of homeless coexisting with picnickers by day, ducking into the shrubbery at night, living about as off the grid as one can be in the middle of a city park. They survive, eking out an existence out here, collecting the recyclables others toss away, huddling together for support and notification, particularly of impending police actions or their aftermath. One of those homeless of Central Park is Larry Ford. Larry was actually one of the 7 original plaintiffs in a landmark lawsuit brought by the homeless support group Catholic Worker of Orange County, pertaining to the civil rights abuses of the homeless on the Santa Ana riverbed. Larry is the only plaintiff in that suit who has yet to sign off on the settlement that became a class action, affecting almost all of the county's homeless today, to their detriment, Larry believes, and that is why he says he's still out here in Central Park, standing his ground for something bigger, he says, than a settlement check.
Larry Ford, I presume.
Yes.
We've met.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
It's been some time, Larry, but
yes.
we were talking not so long ago up on the 9th floor of Judge Carter's
yes.
marble-clad
that was a beautiful place.
courtroom, yeah. You had some things to say at the time, and they were not flattering of the court. They were not flattering of the system that was subjecting you 7 plaintiffs under the original lawsuit.
Well, if it looks bad, it's because it is bad because someone else is making it bad for them. If they're left to their own demise, the people that are left to be homeless, living in a tent, or whatever it may be, they just have a mess. If they don't take up their trash, well, then that's where they should get a ticket. At the same time, there's no housing. There's nothing out there. I'm a veteran. I'm honorable. I have been through the process of getting my HUD-VAST qualifications. This would be my 5th attempt.
It's been a year since that date, more than a year. Why are you still out here, Larry Ford?
My heart says so. My intelligence tells me to keep going, because what this is about is more than just being homeless, you know. What makes me homeless is I lived in a home once, I guess, you know. I'm residentially challenged is how I'm putting it nowadays, but the term homeless is a derogatory statement, and it's just because I fell on hard times. I got hurt, blew out my knee, and I went to the VA and asked them to help me before I hit the streets, and I pleaded hard with the system to try to help me. Now, when we went to the courts, you know, after my tour of the riverbed, and I say that with honor because that was like a tour of the military. It was something that I'll never forget. And people I met there were good friends. But going to the courts and seeing how the system is going to deal with it was an eye-opening experience for me. I just felt that my personal rights, my civil rights, and my constitutional rights were violated in many ways. One of my issues is I'm a veteran, and I went into the military during a Cold War time, and I went in there because it was a thing to do. It was the proper thing. You know, my family has great history in the military, and I'm one of them, and I excelled in it. And what I fought for was, when I went in the military, was to show the rest of the world, that, hey, this one person right here is willing to defend his country against foreign and domestic violators or hostile enemies. And I don't think that the domestic is so much as it is the people that choose to use the ordinances as they are laws, they say, that it violates what's wrong. You know, I've been a good citizen, and for the most part, I've got very few tickets in my life. One for speeding, and now I've recently gotten 3 tickets. One for riding my bicycle on the sidewalk. I'm 55 years old. I didn't know about some ordinance about city sidewalks versus this one and that one. You know, my next ticket is I accidentally fell asleep here on a concrete stage. It's dead center to the stage. I just was reading a book and I fell asleep, and I woke up to the police giving me a ticket. And my second ticket. Now these are things that could have said, because said, well, here's your warning. You know, just because they don't know who I am doesn't mean they need to know who I am by giving me a ticket. All right, each ticket is $285. Riding my bike on the sidewalk, 400% court assessment fees, it's $1,300. I'm homeless. I'm choosing not to. I'm trying to get ahead here and pull myself up. I got hurt. My body's better now. At the same time, I've been offered some assistance from the VA and different opportunities through nonprofit organizations, and it's such a tangled paperwork nightmare that if I don't complete it in 4 months, I have to start all over again. For me to maintain and keep my records with me, my DD-214, my Social Security card, my birth certificate, I have to put them in a safe place where I can get to them when I need to, legally. Legally, I need to get to them now, and it's hard. The way the programs are set up, they're so slow and redundant with what they do that most people fail, and I don't want to fail. I mean, what have I started here? Something I feel that needs to be changed. And what am I going to change by me, just one guy standing up? I don't know. This isn't Tiananmen Square, but to me it is, because I've faced a lot of sheriffs and police departments out there in Riverbed, and they respected my stand down. You know, I went at them calmly and peacefully and let them know you can't rush us any faster than our weakest link is going to go. And our weakest link was some of the mentally disturbed individuals or some of the elders that were out there that I would help, you know, in any time of crisis. And that was a crisis out there, you know?
You know, you could walk away from this. You could take that plea. You could take the benefits, your benefit from the fact that you are an original plaintiff, as some others have, but you're still out here. You haven't taken that plea. You haven't reached for that brass ring. You're still out here. However you define homelessness, you are still out here in the bush, essentially. What's it going to take for you to come in from the cold? What's it going to take for you to put a roof over your head?
I want people to understand we have the right to be somewhere, no matter where we are in this world. I've lived overseas. I've lived back east. I live in San Francisco, San Diego. I've been a lot of places, Tahoe. And wherever I was at, I never had any problems with where I was standing, whether I'm working or not. If I'm just standing here like this right now, And if I'm looking scruffy for myself today, a little bit, but at the same time, it's tough shaving out here. At the same time, I have the right to be somewhere, as anyone does. I will not tell you you do not get to be here. You're too close to me. You know, you can be anywhere you want. If I don't like where my front room is at, I can move it around out here. At the same time, I'm standing my ground because I have the right to be on this ground. You know, I fought from what I believe is Constitution says that, you know, we have right to freedom and choose to live our lives the way we see fit. You know, I've offended nobody. If I've offended you by being homeless, well, you consider something of yourself. You know.
Everybody has their price, but you've paid yours more than twice. You stand alone, reach for the other side. Everything is blown away, nothing left but this hard pan clay to comfort you. Oh, you stand alone, you stand alone. Oh, you stand alone, you stand alone. Everything is blown away, nothing left but this hard pan clay to comfort you.
Most homeless on the street do not possess Larry Ford's clarity of mission or his skill of evasion. The steady escalation of police actions against the unsheltered homeless have kept most of them on the move, sleep-deprived, stripped of their personal possessions, and under constant threat of citation and nuisance warrant arrest. So, more and more of them are receding into the darker corners of the county to escape a vicious cycle of criminalization, leading eventually to jail or some form of psychiatric detention. Certain regional parks and wildlands in Orange County offer protection, concealment, and cover for those homeless who have shunned the shelters or seek relief from the constant stress of harassment by police on the streets. The Talbert Wilderness Area is one such expanse of land, intertwined with trails difficult for PD and park rangers to patrol, but easily traversed by the homeless on bicycles. The homeless who live there call it the jungle. This homeless woman camps among the heavy brush at night, traveling the trails freely with her dog, Duke, during the day, to other such encampments nestled into the deep brush. And like many others living off the grid, she is reluctant to give her name, phone, or contact information out of fear of being tracked and traced by law enforcement. Even out here in the bush, they know they are being hunted. Most of the homeless still on the railroad tracks have learned not to get too attached to anything more than they can carry when the police come. We found Jason on the railroad tracks somewhere in City of Orange, still in possession of what he loves most, his guitar. He intentionally keeps his encampment by the tracks sparse and ready to roll, he says.
I got a habit, I got a day.
He knows he won't be there long.
Some victim last crime. I got a habit, hell I've got no life.
So Jason, do you feel, I mean, besides your aversion for the shelters that you spoke of, you say that you're currently taking one or more, drugs out here. You admit you have an addiction. Do you feel that's keeping you from moving ahead as much as your fear of the shelters?
Do I feel that? Well, I would say that would be 100%. It would be 100%. I don't want to go to any place that seems hostile. I don't want to be threatened by the police, which is absolutely the first thing that happens. They go and they start to mess up your, like if I have a place to live, and the reason why I don't is because, well, they're just going to come and mess up the things that I have in the first place. At least that's what the behavior has been in the past so far,
Yeah.
And I don't want to have anything to attach to, honestly. I mean, these guys, they threaten my existence. I can't even go walk down the street without being worried that these guys are going to come and take advantage of all of my things, mess them up, throw them away, and then, I mean, my things are not worth very much. I don't care so much about that. I don't want to get in trouble anymore. I've been trying to not get in trouble for quite a while, and just crossing on the wrong side of the street or something, it becomes an antagonistic thing. It's something that they use to try and toy with you, and then I can't even imagine if somebody decides that they feel a certain way about it and want to be angry about something, or any of that sort of thing. Somebody goes and they act upon something like that, and you're going to jail for a good long while.
So you're not inclined to get close to possessions or belongings too much because they're about to get rolled up.
That is right on the money. I actually stopped getting. I happen to love Apple products, and I love that software and everything. And I'll tell you, I don't even get the iPhone anymore because I know it's going to be stolen, smashed, or the police will get there. It's just it's not an option really. I'm going with the free phone for now. So.
Yeah. You've been on the streets now for what?
Six years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
And is part of that time been through the jail system in Orange County as well?
Absolutely. I frequent the jail systems probably. I mean, every 90 days would be good numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just hard to avoid that, going to jail out here?
I can only say absolutely. I mean, I don't have the option to go walking down the street and have it not turn into something at some point. It almost feels like it's timed. I mean, I know that's not really likely or anything like that, but I feel like it's almost timed that these guys come along and they do their cop thing, and I end up in trouble for something that I never even would have preconceived or even thought about in the first place. It's like it feels I feel very picked on about it when it comes down to the police.
Do you see that? Is that a pattern that you see, not just for you, but for everyone else out here, or most everyone?
I mean,
do you see that every day happening to people out here?
And I mean, we've watched them countless times beat people to death and all that kind of stuff. And no, my situation is not quite like that, but that's because I've learned how to kiss ass proper. Honestly, actually, like with the cops, be like with my toes turned in, or however you want to say it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I don't have the option of telling them that I know my rights or any of that sort of stuff. If I get into that, we're getting beat down,
Yeah.
And that's for real.
So there's a certain survival protocol that you have to watch when you're being approached by officers.
Yeah, it's interlace your fingers and watch your head, because if your head is not touching the wall, they will bash it into the wall. And that's the truth. I mean, that's how that goes.
So you're prepared to go back to jail if you have to. It's imminent, I guess. It's inevitable out here, huh?
I have some good things on the horizon that kind of may, to a lot of you guys, seemingly sound very possibly bleak or whatever, but it's something that might be the answer for me, and I'm just going to try one other option, and that is the county's methadone program has made it available to where I can have non-illegal opiates in my life, and maybe I'll have a chance at another, that maybe I can work again and do the things that I would want to do and be successful around my family who is loving me 100% and is at my beck and call. You know, I love them to death. You know?
You have family in the county?
Oh, most certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
My father and my mother, who are, you know, getting on in their age at this point, and me too. I'm getting on in age too. I just want to spend some time with them, and honestly, when it comes down to the police, they do make it absolutely difficult for me to connect with my family and be around them in any way where I can even come close to feeling normal at all, you know?
Even the railroad tracks are not far enough off the grid for some homeless. Beneath the floodplain of central Orange County, one can get lost in a crisscross of underground tunnels, flood control channels, and open aqueducts that lead to the sea. There but for the grace of God go the homeless who descend there. This nether world is a last refuge these days for some from the criminalizing streets of Orange County. For Jason and others battling addiction or other demons, this is the last stop. As far off the grid as one can get, and just as far from any kind of hope for help. These are truly the lost ones. Jason knows it's only a matter of time before arrest, overdose, disease, or violent death take him from this last sanctuary down in these tunnels where at least he can be at peace with the one thing they haven't taken from him, his music.
I got a habit, I got a day with some victimless crime. I got a habit, hell I've got no life in my life from time to time. I got habitual bullshit attacking my brain. Voluntary enemies have got me trained. I got a habit that I cannot please, and one more time is bearing down on me. Help I can't help it, mother, understand. I'm held hostage by my own hand. I feel the knife in my back again. I think I'm falling off the wagon.
And down in these tunnels, among the last holdouts, there are women, too. A past veteran of tunnel life, Diana walks us into one such cavern where she says hundreds of homeless reside and have done so for years, relatively free of detection or disruption until it rains.
So some people are forced down even further than the sides of the freeways, and they go into the aqueduct, okay, which goes all the way down to the beach, and it has little alcoves in it, okay. Now the thing is about the aqueduct is you're going to go through, all of them are going to have these long corridors of darkness, okay. Hello? Hello? And then, you know, there's etiquette. You know, you don't just come up on someone's house, right? But you can look at, like, the artwork that's been done here. It goes for a long ways.
How far does this go?
This one, I don't know, but I just know the air gets thin in this one. This one's one of the longest underground aqueduct. And the thing that's dangerous about it is that people can get caught up. And we had one of ours that almost died because he got caught up in the swell. Yeah, so I mean, it can be dangerous down here. Also, if you're a woman walking in the dark by yourself, it can be dangerous unless you happen to know everybody in your hood, which I usually do. I try to make an effort to do that.
So what's it like during the rains down here?
Down here, it's wet, it's dangerous. Like I say, people can get swept away. But they're still, as you can see by our friend who just left, they're still willing to take a chance to hang out down here because of the fact that they don't have another option. So that's what some people have to do. They come down to the aqueduct and live, which, you know, I mean, that's certainly questionable, but that's what they do. Hello? Hello? So now we're getting into where it gets dark, and they all go through this. They all go where they have a period of darkness like this, where it gets really dark, and then they'll go back into, you'll have that light go through like we saw there. But this one, I don't know if it's an alcove. They have an alcove, like they'll have a, oh, see, now here's another drainage pipe going to somewhere else. I don't know. People go through there. Some people live in those drainage pipes, actually. I've known people that have actually lived in the drainage pipes. Okay? One of our kids was living in the drainage pipes. So, it's going to get too dark for us to even do anything here pretty soon. But as you can see, now we're in total darkness. And so people have to have a flashlight in order to go any further. And then you'll get into another light spot. But these are some of the conditions that people are living under as well. And they're still doing art.
Amazing.
Yeah, right? I mean, this artwork goes all the way down these aqueducts.
The more resourceful homeless of Orange County increasingly are taking refuge off the grid and into the back alleys, the bush, and even the underground places, as they seek relief from aggressive law enforcement's endless cycle of citation and arrest, or from the revolving doors of exits and reentries that are the insanity of the big shelters. They are understandably turning away from a system of care that is broken, but they are also being systematically isolated from the very services that could and should be helping the homeless lift themselves out of their sometimes life-threatening conditions. Many out there are becoming ill, diminished by the elements, vector-borne diseases, and lack of nutrition and even sleep, and often driven to drug use out of desperation. Some may return to society someday if a hand reaches out to them in time. Some will be lost forever out there, and we may never know their names. One thing is certain: the longer they are out there, the more likely they will remain the lost ones.
Because we all talk together. I mean, we all watch out for each other. You have to, you know? I mean, we have to. Nobody else is watching out for us, you know? So we have to watch out for each other.